So I did a video where I advocated for reparations for African Americans who are descended from slaves. And surprisingly, almost all the feedback was pretty positive. I guess it didn't make it over to MAGA Talk. So there is this question here, though, which is basically, if we were going to do that, where would the money come from? And that's one of the impediments. A lot of people think, well, we just can't possibly afford to pay that. Now, the question becomes value anyway, right? But I want to make the case right now that money is not the issue. Being able to pay reparations to every African American who is descended from slavery is possible. The money could be paid. The question is how much. So I want to run through one example of how this could be done just to prove that it's absolutely possible. I'm not saying this is the right formula. I'm just saying it's a formula that shows that this is possible. So let's do a little math. It's not going to be that complicated. I'm going to use some rounded off numbers because I'm not trying to be precise here. I'm just trying to show that this can absolutely be done. So let's start with the population of Black people who are Americans. That number as of 2023 was about 48 million people. But we can't use that full number as our population that we need to be paying reparations to because, of course, some Black people here, their ancestors were not enslaved. Others, maybe moved here from Africa, from Nigeria, from Uganda, from Ghana, or wherever, or from the UK. Their ancestors were not enslaved. They should be excluded from this because that's not what we're trying to repair. We're trying to repair the family lineage for those whose families were enslaved. And so we need to narrow it down. So I don't know how reliable this is, but I saw it in a couple different places saying that 57% of Black Americans claim that their ancestors were enslaved. I'm going to use that again. I don't know how accurate it is, but let's just use that number. And so if we take that 48 million number and take 57% of that, that gives us a total population of 27,360,000 people. So that's our population. And I'm comfortable enough to use that number just for this process. But then we have to figure out money. How much money could the United States possibly throw at something that they wanted to repair? Well, we have one recent example, and I'm just going to use that number. Do y'all remember COVID happened a few years back? Kind of a big story. There was a program that the United States government put out called the PPP program, or the Paycheck Protection Program. Do you remember that? I bet you do. The United States, at the drop of a hat, when they wanted to, set aside $793 billion for the PPP program. And so if we do just one more equation and we take that $793 billion and we divide it by the 27,360,000 people we have in our class of people, that provides about $29,000 to each person in that group. And again, I don't know that that's right. Clearly, that's not enough if we actually do the economics behind what was lost through slavery. So please don't come for me on that. I'm not saying this is the right number. I'm saying that if we can, at the drop of a hat, drop $793 billion, double it, and pay everybody $60,000. That might not be the right number, but it proves that it absolutely can be done if we wanted to do it. But of course, before we ever discuss value on the topic of reparations, we got to get more people on board with the concept that it's fair, right, decent, and long overdue.
I was doing some research on how much it would cost the US government to pay Black folks in the United States reparations, because at this point, the only way forward in healing and starting to repair and breaking the curse that is the United States is land back and reparations. And by the way, if any Black folks are watching this, happy Juneteenth. If not, I hope you're outside frolicking and relaxing today. Anyway, so there's a couple of numbers that float around. I think one of them I saw was $14 trillion. And trillion is like, I can't even, my brain cannot even compute how much that is. But of course, I was like, well, if they really wanted to, they would, right? And when you start doing the research, there are a couple of numbers out there because they have looked into this. They know how much it would cost. They just don't want to. So then I was like, okay, if it's a possibility, then how much have we spent on foreign wars, let's just be honest, invasions? And since 9/11, the US has spent $8 trillion. It is possible because it has been done before. The US government paid reparations to the descendants of the people who were in the Japanese internment camps. If we are serious about collective liberation and reparative justice, I feel like most of us non-Black people of the global majority and white people need to be co-conspirators of making this happen.
I've talked about reparations before, but there are just a couple of things that I think are worth noting. The two things that people say when they object to reparations are, we've never done it before, and it will cost too much. As to number one, anybody who knows about the Who We Are Project knows that the Compensated Emancipation Act, passed in 1862, paid $1 million to Washington, D.C. slave owners for lost property, 6 months ahead of the Emancipation Proclamation. So reparations for slavery have been paid to slave owners. Reparations were also paid to Japanese Americans for 3.5 years of imprisonment during World War II, $1.6 billion. So the idea that we've never done it before is simply incorrect. But what about how much it would cost? Well, Congress made Juneteenth a holiday in 2021. And I did some deep dive research. And the figure I came up with is that it takes $450 million to shut down the federal government for one day. Now, Republican and conservative senator from Wisconsin, Ron Johnson, says, no, it takes $600 million to shut down the federal government for one day. So whether it's $450 million or $600 million, we're talking about a hell of a lot of money to shut the federal government down for one day. So Congress, with very little debate or discussion, passed a law that ensures that over the next 10 years, the federal government will spend between $4.5 billion and $6 billion to give us a holiday. Do you think that money could be used for something else? I don't know, like reparations. So when the debate is continuing about reparations, please don't tell me we can't afford it. What you could say is we're not willing to afford it.